The Strangers released in 2008 and got a reasonable following, enough to get a single sequel 10 years later. Out of the blue, a reboot trilogy was announced in 2023. A whole trilogy? They must have something exciting planned, something ambitious to warrant that. Right? Right, guys? Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. Is Tamara here? Anyone?
No, but Tim Era is here.
Tamara's here. Oh, Tim, welcome to the show. A special guest for this episode, Tim's joining me.
Always nice to be asked on.
This is a horror movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a horror film. It's that simple. We are still chipping away at a few 2024 releases. We're almost done with those, I will point out. And the only thing that's delaying them now is that more 2025 movies keep showing up and needing to be covered. But we're tackling, sadly, one of the most derided films from last year, one of the worst reviewed horror movies of 2024. Today we discuss The Strangers, Chapter 1.
Correct.
Did you say wrecked?
Correct.
Oh, correct. I thought you said wrecked,
yeah.
Which was like a gaming term from the 2000s. Like if you got destroyed in a video game, it's like REKT.
Oh, sure.
You got wrecked. I thought that's what you just said. I thought you were doing a throwback to your 30s or something. Because Tim's an old man. Well, speaking of being old, actually, the original Strangers is not actually that old, but they've already kind of rebooted it. And the news of this was kind of weird because it was like, oh, there's going to be a new Strangers movie. It's like, okay, that's not that weird. There was one in 2008 when I was 19, and then there was the sequel in around 2016-ish, somewhere around there.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And it's like, okay, they're doing a third one, not that surprising, but it was like, oh no, it's kind of a reboot, and also it's a trilogy where they're shooting all three movies in one block. And it's all directed by Renny Harlin. And you're like, this is like the weirdest, most random news story ever. It's not like he's never done horror before, because he did do Elm Street 4. In fact, he did that before he did all of these action movies and stuff that he got kind of, I wouldn't say famous for, but he did Die Hard 2, he did Deep Blue Sea. And some of those I like well enough. Like, they're not bad. I don't know, he's not like an auteur or anything. I'm not like excited by the name Renny Harlin, but he's not a disaster by any stretch.
I mean, I think he can make fun, like cheesy B movies. So in a way, I was, before it kind of came out, and I guess like the reviews and stuff, like to me it so much wasn't the bad reviews, just for me it was more the fact that just like it seemed like no one was talking about it. Like it seemed it just came out and then just like instantly disappeared. Which I feel like is never a good sign. But before that, I was actually like kind of excited just because, everything about it sounded so weird. And well, I wouldn't say I love like Renny Harlin. Again, he can make stuff that's like interesting or good and like, kind of a cheesy way. So I was like, okay, so maybe there'll be something, if not good about this, at least like there's something interesting about it, or they're coming at it from like a, some type of surprising angle, which is why like they're so invested in like, making 3 movies right away, that, it seemed like there was something more, to it that, had me at least intrigued.
Yeah, especially since like there'd only been 2, so this trilogy is already more movies than what had already happened, which is especially strange. So at the very least you think, oh, maybe he's got some sort of cool idea, he's got something that he wants to do with a trilogy or something. Admittedly, the warning sign perhaps is that while I'm saying I like some Renny Harlin movies, they're all from the 80s and 90s, and I don't think he's done much of note. In fact, the only thing I can think of from the 2000s that he did was that awful Exorcist prequel.
Exorcist,
so, rough goings, but it reviewed horribly when it came out. And like you say, it kind of just obliterated into the vacuum. No one was really talking about it, which is not a good sign for Lionsgate when it's like a trilogy. It's chapter 1 of 3, and they've got a second one coming out later this year. You think, oh, the last thing we want is no one to talk about it, because we kind of need them to go back to the second one.
Yeah.
But hey, we're here. We'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers. And if you are enjoying the show on YouTube, please do hit the like button. It helps us out a bunch. And of course, you can support the show and get more extra stuff over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But I'll tell you more about all that at the end of the episode. So, I guess we'll just, we'll get into it. Tim, what did you think of The Strangers Chapter 1?
So it's interesting because before you're talking about, like how bad the reviews were and stuff. And I guess I hadn't really, like read or watched any reviews of it, but again, it was kind of strange that it just felt like it was something that nobody was talking about. Yeah, like you said, it's never a good sign because, like, at least if it's like, really bad but in a fun way or something, like, people might be talking about it, or there might be more of a buzz or something about it. So I was definitely cautious going in, and then I feel like pretty quickly on you kind of realize like why this is something that just people didn't care about, that it's not on anyone's radar. I just feel like it feels very lifeless. It's very dull. My big thought throughout the movie just kept being like, why? Like, what is the point of this? I'm still not quite sure. I don't know. I don't remember enough about the first one because I'm actually not the biggest fan of the Strangers movies. I know a lot of people like the first one. I don't think it's bad, but it never really like set me on fire like it did, some other people. I don't know. It was fine. Like I get the point that it's very, like chaotic and violent. With like kind of the whole point is like, oh, there's not really like any reason for it or whatever. But I don't know. I always found like the killers just to seem like they were just trying too hard. Like they never really felt creepy to me. They just felt more like, people just trying like too hard to be creepy or whatever. But it's not the worst movie, but I never really cared about it. I actually did kind of like the sequel a little bit, like just because I don't know, I thought it had like some fun set pieces and stuff. Like again, I'm not in love with it or anything, but I thought there was some fun moments in it. This to me is just like I'm not sure if it's specifically trying to remake the first one because again, I don't remember. I mean, I know like the basic plot and stuff from the first one, but like I don't remember if it was like the same characters or whatever. But I mean, regardless, it just feels like they're just trying to do the exact same thing, but it's just much like worse. Like there's just not as much style or production going into it. I find the two leads in this, I hate to be mean, but I thought they were like terrible. They just had no charisma, like no life to them. I knew we were in trouble like early on when they're at that diner and the male lead is like making that joke about the turkey sandwich or whatever, and it just like fell so flat, and it's just like, oh, you can't even pull off like this stupid corny joke, and I kind of knew that we were in trouble from there. And yeah, it just never really goes anywhere. It's just, if you like the first movie, I don't understand why you would really care about this. It's just trying to do the same thing except for worse. And yeah, I mean, I'm just rambling now. I'm just kind of saying the same thing over and over again, but it's just like, yeah, there's just no life to it. It's just pointless. I don't really understand why this was made. And apparently you would think that there would be like such like an exciting reason for it that they would greenlit two movies like right away, which I think they're already filmed, right? Like,
I mean, the second one's got a release date for later this year, so it's done. Like, I don't know if they, I don't know if they've shot the third one yet, but they definitely have shot the second one because it's got a release date.
Yeah, so it's so strange to me that like, you think they would greenlit three movies right away because there was some specific angle about that. They're like, wow, that is cool. Like, this is going to be big. And I don't see like anything in this movie that they felt the need to, justify three more movies of it.
Tim, it literally cuts to a to be continued screen, And I swear, I'm like, there's nothing before the to be continued that makes me go, why did you put a to be continued screen here? There's nothing, like, it's just over. It's just, there's just done. There's nothing, like, left waiting to be resolved. It's so weird. Which it just feels like emblematic of the entire feeling of the whole thing in the first place. To get into my feelings, so I liked the first Strangers when it came out well enough. I do think the quietly creeping into the house was a fun bit, and there's some fun to be had with there being just no reason for what's happening. Admittedly, though, it's not a movie that I felt all that much like need to go back and revisit all that much, you know, over the years. Like I've seen it maybe I think I saw it a second time when we did it for the show, and then I've not seen it since then, right? So I liked it well enough at the time, but it's maybe not like had much of a lasting impact, but it's all right. The second one, I think, is a weaker movie, but has a couple of fun sequences, which stood out, and that's what I remember from that, but I couldn't tell you much about that from memory. So to answer some of the questions you had, and I was sort of biting my tongue a little bit when you were sort of trying to remember the first one, is these are not the characters from the first movie. So it's not like a one-to-one remake in that sense. It is in like all the ways that kind of matter, though. The one big difference, though, between this and the original movie, and I think it's a change for the worse, is in the original movie, the characters are invaded in their own house. It feels like their privacy is being like completely invaded. And
makes sense, yeah.
Whereas here, it's a couple who are traveling across country. They're in Oregon, I believe, and they end up having some troubles. The car won't start. They're in some sort of scary little town where everyone's being weird, which that part of it feels kind of a weird tacked on element. And then it ends up all taking place at a cabin in the woods, which is not what the original did. Even the second one didn't do that. So, like, you've put them in this position that's a lot more generic for a horror movie, you know, the isolated location and all that. I get the logic. But it does repeat, like, there's like 2 or 3 memorable like moments that I think are, I mean, I don't want to use the word iconic, but like moments that people use and come up with when they're talking about the Strangers. These are the 3 moments that make that movie. They do all those moments, but worse, right? So it's a remake in that sense where they repeat all the bits that are memorable, but holy shit, this movie's dog shit. It's like, not only are the 2 leads, like you say, like terrible characters, right? I mean, I know there's fans of Madelaine Petsch, I think her name is, because she was in Riverdale, and I think she had a lot of charisma in that. So I'm not going to like say that this is entirely an acting problem, because I think that it is also just a script and direction problem. But yeah, they are like such just blank wet farts of characters. Like the guy in particular just has nothing going for him. It's really quite shocking just how devoid of personality he is.
Yeah, like I don't think either one does a great job, but I would definitely say the guy is much noticeably worse.
Yeah, and the sad part is it's not even like he's bad in a sense. He's just nothing. He's just so bland that there is nothing to say about him. It's honestly baffling. And they try so hard early on to give them like some quirks where it's like, oh, they kind of get feisty in like sort of like way where not like a sexy way, but like in a like oh they'll say F you to each other and give each other the finger but smile afterwards. Like that's their playful banter kind of thing. And it just falls so flat. I'm like, you're trying to do the thing where they've got some in-jokes and it just feels so forced and so unnatural.
There's no chemistry. It never felt genuine. It just, yeah, everything felt forced. It was like within the first 5 minutes or so, you already know you're in for a bad time because you're like, I don't want to be around these people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and one of the problems with The Strangers as a concept, as much as I think the first movie does work, is that while it's technically a slasher movie and that we have slasher villains, there's not actually a lot of characters for a body count because it's really just the main couple that are being targeted. So it's not even like we get, you know, fun kills peppered throughout. I think that's the one thing the second movie kind of changed, is the second one had more people to kill. I think that's one of the things they did in that one. But so that's a big problem with the movie. All of the creeping around is much worse. It feels like Renny Harlin like long forgot to direct, and it's just kind of going through the motions. The pacing's horrible. There's no sense of momentum building up to anything. There's like 20 minutes of this movie where the characters are split up and they're just going through the woods in the dark and like almost nothing is happening, and you're just clawing your eyes out begging the movie to do something. And then when it finally does, it just happens out of nowhere, and there's like there's no like ramping up of tension until the killer shows up. They just kind of suddenly show up randomly, and then we move on to what the next part of the movie is, and that's it. This is a complete and total abject failure in every possible sense of the word. I can't think of much nice things to say about it. The only real positives it has going for it is that it still looks professional compared to, say, you know, a no budget movie. But it's, as far as like studio made stuff goes, it is at the bottom of the barrel. At least it's short. There you go. That's my one positive. It's like, it's technically 90 minutes, but the credits start rolling at about the 82-minute mark. Hallelujah.
No, that's very fair. Yeah. Honestly, I was kind of surprised that this was like a theatrical movie. Like, to me, this screams like straight to streamer, like just in terms of the acting quality, the production and stuff. Like, it's I really didn't think it like looked great or sounded great or anything. Like, I don't know. It's almost like, I don't know. I don't even like feel super passionate about it because it is so like bland and boring. Like, I almost wish I could be more upset about it. But honestly, it's like, after this podcast, I'm never gonna like think about this movie ever again. It is so forgettable.
Well, when part 2 comes out, you'll be thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah. True. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that we're gonna get more sequels and stuff, I bet that this would be the kind of movie that people, you know, like a year from now would just be like, oh yeah, they did do another Strangers movies, huh? Whatever happened with that? You know. But yeah, I mean, I guess just because of the weirdness, because of the back-to-back, like, you know, quickly greenlit trilogy, it'll maybe have some staying power in people's brains. But yeah, this is just so nothing. It's just like a cardboard box of a movie. Like, it just felt like looking at cardboard for 90 minutes.
It has nothing going for it. And I agree that I wish I was more angry. I wish it did things that were more infuriating. It's just dull. It's like it's the worst thing to have to try and talk about. And the first movie only made 48 million worldwide, right? Chapter 2 is going to make less than that. At what point, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Chapter 3 does end up just being like, oh, we'll just throw it on a streaming service. Like, the last one doesn't even go to theaters. That would not surprise me at all at this rate.
No, not at all. Because I mean, I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but I feel like we've already been getting a lot of, like, you know, trailers for, like, you know, the big upcoming, like, horror movies, especially, like, you know, some of the franchise stuff. And obviously this is very, you know, noticeably absent. Like, they're, you know, certainly not making a big push for it.
It's coming in September. Well, that can't be right. Hold on a second. Let me fact check this with IMDb. That cannot be right. No.
What's that?
Tim, the runtime of Chapter 2, according to IMDb and Box Office Mojo, the second chapter is 2 hours and 42 minutes. That has to be a mistake. That can't be right. That has to be chapters 2 and 3 combined. Come on.
Yeah. that is insanity.
No, don't make me. I don't want to. This is awful.
That would be wild. Oh my god! Imagine seeing that in theaters. That would be insane.
To answer a previous question you had, there is a trailer because it's playing on IMDb when I went to the page.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I had not seen or heard anything about it.
Yeah, it's that's the other thing about this being like the start of a trilogy and it basically just doing the beats of the first movie in a different setting, is that I was thinking throughout, I'm like spoilers for the original movie, just for the record, before I say this, but the original movie just ended with both main characters dying, and I'm like, how does this continue as a trilogy exactly? I mean, maybe it could get inventive and do something where it's like the killers or the town. Because I do think this kind of set up some town characters that are probably going to show up again.
Sure.
In chapters 2 and 3, I would assume. Like Richard Brake, for example, who's kind of a recognizable horror actor, is like a sheriff or something like in the diner. And he doesn't even have a line of dialogue, but he's there. And I can only assume it's because they've got bigger plans for him in 2 or 3, I would guess.
I mean, the only thing I can think of, and I don't know if it's like giving, like Renny Harlin too much credit or something, but like, I wonder if he had like this big crazy idea for like a Strangers movie, and the studio or whatever was like, oh, that's awesome, we love that, but you can't start there. Like, that can be the second movie, but you got to give us like, one to set it up or something, and then he's just like, all right, well, whatever. But I mean, even if that was the case, though, I don't understand why, since it's so similar to the first one, why the first one can't serve as the setup.
What is this copium, Tim? It feels like you're trying to convince yourself that 2 might be good. That chapter 2 somehow will defy the odds and be good.
I mean, I would love to be shocked, but at this point, I'll be going in with like super low expectations. Yeah. But I mean, again, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the idea of like why a studio would be so gung-ho about greenlighting a trilogy right away if there's not some kind of hook or something there. It just it truly is baffling.
And there is nothing in this movie to suggest what that hook is, if there is like a hook to the trilogy.
Exactly.
There's nothing here to suggest that there should be even a second one, never mind. Other than the fact that it just says to be continued at the end for seemingly no reason.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you've got. I don't even know, like, what's the next one going to be? Is it going to be... Oh, okay, I can't really say. I was going to speculate something, but I would be getting any spoilers for this one, so I'm realizing we're still in spoiler-free territory, so I'll hold my I'll hold my thought. Yeah, as far as anything else goes, it's not like there's good kills or anything like that, really. It's not like there's good suspense. I don't know. It's baffling to me as well that you're rebooting and you're taking all the things that worked in the original and doing them worse, but the one thing that you decide to change like really abruptly or like heavily is you swapped in like another horror trope of like, oh, the car breaks down in the creepy small town where everyone's a bit weird. Like, why are we doing that? Like, the whole reason why The Strangers kind of worked is because you're in a normal suburban environment and this threat is coming out of nowhere. But you're putting them in a situation where it's like, oh, we're in the creepy Texas Chainsaw Town. Oh, there's some creepy serial killers. What a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point. Like, the whole hook of the first movie is that this is a home invasion that could happen anywhere. And I feel like, people that I talk to, that's why this movie resonated so much, because it was like, well, shit, if that happened to me at night, I'd be terrified, But then... yeah, the second one doesn't even have that going for it, or not the second one, but this one, it doesn't even have that going for it because, like you said, they kind of swapped that out for just these tired old tropes of, all right, the car breaks down, they're in a place they don't know, and there's all these like creepy, like kind of rednecky people that seem like kind of sinister, that are like, oh, I'll fix your car, but it'll, take a day. And, oh, you can stay at this place that's like, way out in the woods and blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, it's just playing on all these tropes that makes it feel just more of like a, whatever cheesy horror movie versus, the other one, which is trying to capture that feeling of like, oh, this is what it's like to be in your house alone. And then, something creepy is happening and you're freaking out or whatever.
Having said that, I would have taken cheesy over this if they actually went cheesy.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's just too dull to even feel cheesy. It just feels tired and like, like someone who's been doing the same boring job every day for 30 years and is just sluggishly going to work, shoulders low, turning on that work PC, pulling up the spreadsheet, putting in the data, doing some refinement or whatever people do at jobs.
Yeah, it's just, you're just going through the motions.
That's all it is. I have nothing else to really describe it as. It's I think they're trying to go for this thing like the three killers could be any of the three people that we see in the town. Like, I think they're going for that kind of vibe. And I don't necessarily hate that idea, but I don't know. I just, none of it works. None of it works. Like, I think on paper, I could see where you might go with that if you want to, like, you know, but the problem is, though, is that would it be more effective if, like, you still had that fear, but everyone acts normal? And it's the idea that any normal person you talk to could secretly be this killer. Because that, again, that's kind of the point, right? Of the Strangers, is that this could happen to you in your home, anywhere, and you don't know who's behind the mask. But if everyone's already kind of acting a little suspicious and, like, unhinged, it's like, well, oh, I'm not going to be surprised when this doofus in the diner, like, if the mask comes off at some point and it's him, it's like, oh, what a shock. All right, spoilers. Spoilers for the Strangers Chapter 1. You have been warned. This is going to be the quickest spoiler section we've done in a long time.
I know. I was like...
nothing happens in this. I'm trying not to swear. They're good.
Oh, no, I mean, we could legitimately describe the whole plot in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, easy, right? Couple traveling, and they're... Oh, sorry. There's an opening scene where some previous victims running through the woods and gets killed. Do you know what other trope you like in horror movies? You know that trope when they go to the small town and there's a missing poster of, like, a previous victim? Yeah.
Oh, no, and again, like, the townsfolk are being, like, real creepy about it, like, for some reason.
Yeah, he came to the diner. He even ate what you had.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, hey, why are you trying to freak me out?
So it's their 5-year anniversary. Although, as we find out, it's not a wedding anniversary. It's just 5 years together. Which, when it comes up in the diner where they stop for food, they're like, "Wait, why didn't you put a ring on that finger after 5 years? What's wrong? What are you waiting for, boy?" And he's like, "I'm waiting for my club sandwich," or whatever the line was. I assume that was the joke you were saying that fell flat.
Yeah, but like which you know, it's not a bad joke, like, honestly, but the way he delivers it is so, like, oh boy, like, we're yeah, this guy, like, if he can't even deliver, like, that very simple line, that's, you know, bad news for the movie. Also, I don't know, I mean, maybe it's, you know, maybe a little different in, like, these smaller towns or whatever, but I feel like 5 years is, like, a pretty normal amount of time. Like, I feel like if you're getting to be about, like, 10 years or so, you know, without, you know, with dating and no marriage prospects, then I can see people might be like, okay, what are you waiting for? But I think 5 years is standard.
I mean, yeah, location, but I think age plays a part. If you said you were having a 5-year anniversary and you were both, like, in your late 30s, that would feel a bit strange. It's like, okay, surely by this age you're thinking about long term a bit more. But yeah, honestly, like, yeah, 5 years isn't that weird to not be married. It's like, you know, it's like, I mean, obviously lots of people will have proposed by then, but it doesn't need to be. Like, this is not, it's not a regular amount of time. And even if it is, it's kind of rude to just jump in and start giving your opinion on such a thing. I don't know, but everyone's looking shifty. Everyone's staring at them. The mechanic's staring at them from across the street. The sheriff sitting looking around at them like, oh, there's strangers. We don't like strangers in our town.
Whoa, double meaning. Maybe they're the strangers. So, real quick though, to go back to this marriage stuff though.
Yes.
Didn't it make it so impactful then at the end when he finally does ask her to marry her right before they die? Like, did that bring a tear to your eye?
Here's the thing about critiquing this, is that on paper they're right to try. They're right to try and set something up that has an emotional payoff later in the movie. The problem is that their chemistry is a dud. When it does come up, it doesn't, because it's not like she gets uncomfortable. See if, like, you know, this waitress said, "Hey, why haven't you popped the question yet?" If it cut to her looking a little uncomfortable, like she's actually wondering the same thing, maybe you set up the idea that there's a little bit of an elephant in the room where it's not been addressed. But it literally just comes up. They have sex like halfway through the movie, off camera. They could even show us some fun. Happens off camera, and they're sitting there or lying there post-coital, and she just kind of, like, brings up the subject, and he just kind of casually says, "But you said you didn't want to get married." And she's like, "I said that 5 years ago." And they basically just acknowledge that they're both up for it, and it's like, yeah, okay, I guess we're talking about this bit of thing, because right after they have this conversation, she says, "Oh, if I get this job in Portland, you know, are you going to move here with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course I am." And I'm like, you know, like, I'm not a writer, I'm not, right? So maybe I should not be tossing stones at glass windows. Although I'm not actually in the glass house, so maybe I should. Maybe it's okay for me to toss the stones. I'm free to do so. But maybe like a moment of hesitation where he's not sure if he's willing to commit to moving to, like, you know, like, because he's from like New York or whatever, right? He's just to the big city. Portland is, I mean, Portland is actually still a city, but you know, whatever. Like, it's not New York, right? Fine. Yeah. Maybe a little hesitation where maybe there's a bit of like a conflict here that has to be resolved, you know, where he kind of wants to, but he feels conflicted about it, and that's making maybe a little bit of strain in the relationship, so that when he decides to propose, when it looks like they're both about to die, maybe it's like saying, "Hey, I was stupid for even doubting this earlier. I want you to know that I want to marry you before I die," kind of thing. Like, you could do something with it. It's very shallow. It's very kind of 1, 2, 3, right? Where it's like, they're not married. Oh, it turns out they do want to get married, and it's just not came up. Like, honestly, I do think it's funny, him saying "you said you didn't want to get married," and her saying "I said that 5 years ago. I didn't mean forever." That's an amusing reaction to that line. But maybe it would have been better if it felt more like he was, for some reason, dragging his feet. Like, for some reason, he was nervous and he didn't know if he wanted to commit or something. But the relationship never has any second of, like, oh, they're not, like, well right now, or things are maybe rocky, or there's tension between them. There is not a shred of tension between these two people. So it doesn't feel like the proposal is resolving anything. It doesn't feel like it's, like, oh, making up for mistakes or lost time or anything like that. Like, these two people are flirting, they have sex, he's happy to go pick up some food, and creepy stuff happens when she's on her own. Like, and then, you know, the chaos starts. Like, there's not a shred of conflict between them. And I'm not saying, again, it would be kind of some tropes to go through to just do the exact same thing, but notably, in the original film, the couple were having some, like, the movie starts off with them in a fight. Like, you know, they're kind of cold and awkward with each other because they've just had a bit of a falling out at a wedding or something like that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, from what I remember of the first movie was, there's much more of that stuff, and you could, and again, it played it all very real, and, like, you know, it did feel like very tense between them, which, you know, then does a good job of amping up like when all the chaos starts and they kind of have to come back together. Again, feels like it just did that, you know, worlds better than, you know, this movie.
Yeah, it's not high art by any means. It's quite simple, but just the simple idea of, like, the horror, the threat, making you appreciate what you had and that you don't want to lose it, right? It's that simple. Like, there's just a little bit of that in there. But here, it never feels like, I don't know, it just never feels like there's any conflict between them in any way, shape, or form, or anything they have to work through. It basically, the idea of, like, oh, why aren't we married yet comes up, and they basically just quickly say, yeah, we're both into that now. Smile, kiss. Oh, okay, I guess we're just happy. All right.
Yeah. And then, like, even, and yeah, not to, like, jump around or whatever, but I mean, I feel like similar to that, like, they set up this whole big thing with him having asthma, which I feel like never becomes that big of a deal. Like, you know, there's a few times throughout the movie where he's like, oh, yeah, I need to breathe or whatever. But, you know, it never really felt like it amounted to any, like, super tense moments or something where it's like, oh no, like, you know, he's having a panic attack or something, and the stranger's right there. Like, it, you know, it's just another thing that, okay, I see, like, you're setting up something, but it feels like there's really no payoff.
It's just an excuse for him to have to go back to town and leave her alone. That's it. That's and I like, see if they'd really sold it as she's kind of scared and doesn't want him to leave. Like, this excuse would make sense to me, because no, he kind of needs this. This isn't just like some, you know, because she says, you know, I'm kind of hungry as well. So he's like, okay, I'll pick up some food. If it was just, you know, go pick up some food, it'd be kind of weird for her to just say that and be cool being left on her own after the creepy person's already been at the door asking for Tamara. So the asthma, the inhaler would be the way of saying, no, this is like something he needs. This is something that he can just sort of go without. So like, that's the purpose of it. Obviously, I'm not saying it's done well. It's kind of clunky, and it's very contrived in some places because there just happens to be a motorbike at this cabin that he can borrow. Like, it's like, oh, we want him to go back to town and leave her alone, but the entire plot setup is that the car's like stopped working and has to be at the garage. So, oh, there's a magic motorbike so he can leave and come back. It feels like they wrote an opening, realized they wanted him to leave, and then had to just write in a reason why he could still do it. And then that's it. It just feels really clunky in that sense. So yeah, the car isn't working when they come back out the diner. He immediately is like, oh, we've been ripped off here. These mechanics sabotaged their car. And she's like, no, be nice, be nice. There's also like a moment before they get to town where like a guy in a truck flips them off because he almost hits them.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess I think the implication is he might be the main killer or something, but doesn't really matter. So they get taken to the cabin by a waitress from the diner who offers them a lift, who's kind of nice to them when everyone else is being weird, which immediately made me think, oh, you're one of the killers. You're one of the lady killers. Do you know what's so annoying? In the first movie, I guess it wasn't a kid, but there was definitely like a man killer, woman killer, child killer, right? That's what it felt like. Here, the child feels like she's basically the same height and age as the woman killer, so it's just two women killers, which does make the whole creepy at the door asking for Tamara a bit weird, because I think in the original it felt like a child was asking this. It felt like a child like knocked on the door and asked for Tamara. But which reminds me, actually, because the whole thing in the first movie about the knocking the door and asking for someone who's not there and like not really saying anything else, that was something that actually happened to the director supposedly, and that's what inspired the whole movie, and that's why he said it's based on a true story, even though the rest of it is complete fiction. This movie, for some reason, starts off with there is like 26 million violent crimes every year in the US. This is the story of the worst one. And I'm like, all right, why are we pretending this is based on anything remotely true? I don't know, but okay. Yeah. Nice try. But yeah, so they get to the cabin, they kiss, they flirt, they do nothing else, I guess.
Yeah, and then the problem with like even the stuff like the person coming to the door and asking for Tamara is, that was like a pretty weird and creepy part in the original, but now again it's like we're just redoing the same thing, so it just loses so much of its like mystique. And same thing for like the big ending line of like, why are you doing this to us? And it's like, because you were here.
Yeah, which is different, by the way, because the original movie, the line was because you were home, which is definitely creepier.
Much better.
Yeah.
But like even with that, it's like the line loses all of its like muster, because it's like, okay, well, we know this, we've heard this before, and now it just feels like, like a cheap imitation of a copy, versus before when it was like, oh, okay, like this is a weird new creepy thing that I'm seeing for the first time. It's just, there's just like nothing. I don't know. There's nothing to it. I don't know. It feels like I don't know if you're like asking AI to like recreate like like, oh, hey, do the moment that I like from the movie, and then it just regurgitates this thing that's like, oh, this has like no life or art to it whatsoever.
That's a good way of describing it. There's no life or art here. It just feels devoid of any of that. The whole thing where like he goes back to town, and again he interacts with a couple of people from the diner and like the younger mechanic when he sees them, because they were at the little burger place where he's picking up some burgers. And they do a whole point here where they make a point of saying she's vegetarian, and it's. It felt like it was going to play into something like maybe one of these like townsfolk's going to be like offended or something, like, oh, vegetarian should eat meat, you dumb city woman or so. I don't know. Like I thought there was going to be something that comes out of it because they kept emphasizing it and it just never really amounted to anything. But while he's away is when we get all the stuff where like the killers have kind of snuck in the house. Although we also have the one person like knocking on the door and asking for Tamara again. We do that like 3 times because I don't know. I guess do it multiple times. It works so well, so just keep doing it. I think one of the problems I had with this one, and this is always kind of true in horror movies, don't get me wrong, there's a suspension of disbelief that you have to go on with. But the knock at the door is a good example of this for me, where the way this character was in silhouette was so unnatural, because it was trying to present it like the main characters couldn't see her face either, but like that's not how light works. Like there'd be light coming from inside the cabin, they've got all the lights on, even if there's no porch light on, you would still see some of her face, but she is just a black void of negative space where her appearance is. And I'm like, this just doesn't feel natural. It feels like someone's digitally went in and like, you know, effects and just like selected her and turned down the brightness like to you know 0 basically, or negative 100, whatever the number would be. So that feels weird to me. The other one that feels weird is like when she's in the shower and like she doesn't notice that the main killer, the masked guy, is standing right next to the shower, like right there. And I get that it's supposed to be creepy that she doesn't notice, but I'm like, put him a little bit further on the back to make it believable that she's not going to see him in the corner of her eye. I don't know, it was pushing all those things a bit too far for me. In fact, one of the best moments of the original movie is the first time that he like walks out of the shadows and he's like, oh, he's in the house. He's just like right behind her in the house. And it's like a good visual, sets up what the movie's going to be. Here, the equivalent moment, she's sitting at the piano playing Moonlight Sonata, and he ends up sitting in the reflection. So you see him sitting in a chair. And this is just another good example of this is just much, much worse than the first time you see him properly in the original film. And again, it's not like we're even like in love with the original film. I think it's a solid little movie, but it's not like some on a pedestal. This is not like remaking Halloween where I'm like so attached to it that I'm upset. It did some things kind of well, and this movie is failing to do any of those things remotely as good.
I mean, like I said before, I don't love the original, but I mean, I feel like after this, I'm like, okay, maybe I do need to give it a lot more credit, you know, than I originally thought, because now I'm at least seeing, you know, the bad version of it or how it can be done. That, I do think this movie bumped up the original a little bit in my mind.
Oh yeah, it's like high art compared to this. Come on, are you kidding me? Oh jeez. So yeah, there's more creepy moments. At one point, her phone moves, you know, without her looking and stuff like that.
I do have a question. Like, I wonder, like, what would happen if the strangers go to a house and there just happens to be a Tamara that lives there? Like, does that just throw a whole wrench into their system?
That sounds like a sketch waiting to happen. Is that they go? Is Tamara here? And then someone goes, "Yeah, I'm Tamara. Who are you?" And then they just go, "Oh shit," and just run away.
Gotta go.
Maybe here's the thing though. What if it's a case of like they know who's there, so they just always pick a name that doesn't fit the people that are there?
That could be it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they know there's a Tamara, they'll just say Tina or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, is there a Tamara here? I'm a Tamara. I meant Tina. Oh, my middle name's Tina. I mean Fred. Oh, my dad's name's Fred. I will get him. Like, oh god damn it! Why is every name ever lived in this household? Anyway, so there's a whole thing at the end of her section on her own where the lights go out and she's scared and she's hiding and she does see one of the ladies in the mask. I don't know if it's the doll face or the pin-up one, but she sees one of the masks come out at her, and she runs, she's scared, and of course the door starts shaking, someone's trying to get in, and it turns out to be, you know, just the boyfriend coming home. And he's like, what's wrong? And he gets the lights back on, and she's petrified because she saw someone in the house, but then he's like, hey, is this what you saw? And there's like a painting on the wall with like a similar face to the mask. and she's like, oh, I don't know, and she was, she was a little high. She saw it in the dark. She kind of convinces herself that this is what it is, and. But I was talking earlier about the movie not having much momentum and just things just kind of like catapulting to the next bit. One of the big examples for that for me is when they sit down and he's got the burgers and he's eating his burger, right? And he's all sloppy about it, and she makes some jokes about him being messy. And and I thought they were going to do a thing here where there was something in his burger. Maybe the cook at the diner had like done something to it or put something in there. But what actually happens here is that we're watching the ketchup drip onto the box, and then like a minute later, there's like some clearly blood dripping onto like just nearby, and then they both like notice it, and they both look up, and there's like a dead bird like hanging from the light. So someone's been in here and hung this dead animal up, and they freak out, and that's where like things like sort of like, oh, we're actually in danger. We have to start taking this like seriously now. This moment for me just felt like we're here. I mean, in some ways, I'm glad we're moving forward because like I'm so bored. But on the other hand, I'm like, I just don't feel like we've built to this in any like reasonable way. And I think it's just an example of just how flat everything felt when she was like being like, spooked by the people outside, like knocking on the door and the lights going out. All of that felt so flat that this moment just didn't feel earned, that we're ready to catapult into, okay, panic mode, we're in danger, there's people trying to get to us, so on and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I forget if they did anything like this in the other movies, but I mean, to me, it doesn't really feel like much of their MO. Like, so much of what they do is the kind of, like hiding in the shadows and, like slowly, walking, towards you and being creepy in the mask and stuff. So, I don't know, it feels weird that, I don't know, like they're bringing in this outside thing or whatever. Also, like, when you think of like stuff like this, like I think of the logistics of it, where it's like, all right, well, how do they get it to like time it perfectly where it doesn't start bleeding until, like right away, like, right at the point when, they're having that conversation or whatever.
Honestly, that's not the part that bothers me. I'm fine with it not dripping in blood till later. What bothers me is the idea that neither of them notice it hanging there until it starts dripping blood. That's what bothers me more.
Yeah.
Like, because how would you not notice it? Imagine you walk into a room, Tim, and there's a dead animal hanging from the ceiling, and you just don't notice it. You would notice it.
Yeah. Like especially like, if you turn on the lights or something, and like, your eyes are usually like drawn to the light for a second or something, you'd think there'd be something there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not in a place where you wouldn't notice it. I refuse to believe it. It's like sometimes movies do this where they treat the ceiling like some place that you never look up, and you can hide something up there to an extent, especially if it's something crawling around and like it's not, it's just moving and you can sort of see it above the character's head or something. But when it's just something static that's been there, because this is the thing, it's not like they snuck in halfway through the scene and did this. They couldn't have. They've been sitting there eating a burger, so it's been there since before they came out of the kitchen and sat down to eat. So I don't know. The whole thing just feels a bit contrived to me.
And not to go back too much, but I don't know. Should maybe mention real quick the scene where before this, the boyfriend he goes to the junkyard or the mechanic's place to get his inhaler, and he runs into the mechanic guy again, who there's like a little jump scare or whatever where. He's like, oh, like I thought you might be like robbing the cars or something. I could have shot you or something. He's like very pissed at him, but I don't know. I guess like it's another scene just letting you know, the people in this town are kind of scary and weird. Like you gotta watch out.
Yeah, I didn't forget the scene. I just had nothing to say about it, but
there's a. In a movie where, like, I mean, not saying it's a good scene or whatever, but in a movie where honestly not much happens, like, I was trying to think of other stuff to talk about, because I feel like the rest of the movie is just basically, run a little bit and the killers catch up, and then they run a little bit more, they get separated.
I mean, that sums it up. But I mean, they barricade the door at one point. The killer axes the oar down, just stares at them, and then walks away. They end up escaping into the underpass of the house.
The crawl space.
Yeah. So they're sneaking through there, and they get out of the crawl space, and like there's a whole bit down there where she puts her hand onto a nail, so she has to like try and be quiet while he pulls it out, and like they're going for that kind of moment. When they get out of the crawl space, though, they look over and see a shed, and I thought to myself before they said anything, well, that would be stupid to go there because like it's the one location they might also check. Like the best thing you can do is just make a run for it and try and get away. And immediately he says, "Let's go to the shed." I'm like, all right, okay, I guess we're going there. Jeez. And then he finds a shotgun in there. Honestly, all this just builds up to them sneaking around. He realizes, hey, there's a motorbike still out there, but that blows up when they go near it, so they have to run away from that, right? So the strangers have already thought of that. Also, earlier on, she called the owner of the house because the fridge wasn't working. So we do a build-up bit here where he's got the shotgun and he's like, they're hearing some noises around the corner of the house. So he's getting ready, he's primed, he jumps around the corner, fires the shotgun, shoots the man dead, and then she notices that there's no mask, and then notices a toolbox, and is like, oh no, you killed the repairman. So, which I want to say that is kind of a spin on something that wasn't the original. I want to say, like, I think it's like maybe like one of their friends came to the house like halfway through and ended up being killed in some way.
Yeah, isn't it like Dennis from It's Always Sunny?
Was it?
Like, comes over or something?
I don't remember that, but that sounds vaguely right. Yeah.
I mean that's like an interesting idea, I guess. And then
the enthusiasm. I guess that's an interesting idea. I guess
it does. It does set him up to have just this god awful one-liner.
What?
Towards the end of the movie.
You didn't like this badass one-liner? when he gets one of the killers, that one of the lady killers, he's got this shotgun to the back of her head in the woods, and he's like, "They say the first kill's the hardest. This is my second."
It's like, yeah, but to be fair, the first time was a completely innocent man. Like,
yes,
it's not like. Also, like, I knew that he wasn't gonna kill her. I was just like,
oh, obviously, yeah.
Oh, come on! Like, you're taking so long. Either do it now, or and of course, yeah, then someone comes up and hits him with a rock or something. Or
it's
whatever.
such a nothing moment. Like, they have this tension in theory of like him going to kill her. She's staring at him with the mask. And then the main killer just sort of runs up and hits him. It's like a nothing thing. It's the same problem I have with how like her because they're split up at this point, and the girlfriend's like hiding in the woods. She buries herself in leaves at one point. She tries to call for police because they found a phone in the mechanic's car because they tried to leave in his car, and then obviously the killers showed up and just rammed the car, like their truck into him and whatnot. But she tries to phone for police, and she's not really like. The woman's not been able to hear her very well. She's trying to get a better signal, and eventually, after just this goes on for a while, like she just gets hit and knocked out, and she gets dragged away, and that's kind of it. Like we spend so much time with her running through the woods, with the boyfriend also running through the woods. There's a whole bit where he like needs to breathe, and he's dropped his inhaler, so he finds like a plastic bottle and kind of like twists it to make like a makeshift inhaler. And I'm like, okay. And this is like the crinkling sort of alerts one of the killers to his whereabouts. But I cannot emphasize just how dull and uninteresting this entire like 15-20 minute section in the woods is. Because it's just killing time. There's no sense of geography. There's no like good build-ups or suspense or moment. It just, in fact, at one point it just cuts to the killers just on their own, just walking through the woods looking for them, and like one of the ladies is just kind of like looking around in her mask, and it's like, is this supposed to be like atmospheric? Because I'm feeling nothing here.
Nothing, no, not at all.
I honestly, it's such a dud. It's such a dud in almost every way. It's really quite. So yeah, when they both get knocked out and like taken back to the house, it's basically time to end the movie at that point. We're at the final thing. So is there anything else you want to talk about before we get to that?
I mean, I was just gonna say real quick, like even the stuff that you feel like should be kind of cool, like when they're in the crawl space, like I feel like okay, like this could be a fun thing where yeah, you're trying to escape, but then you have to like time it with like when the killers are above you and there can be tension there, and then like putting your hand on a nail but then being forced not to scream and stuff. Like it feels like that should be a good idea, but again it just feels so like dull as you're watching it. Maybe because at that point you just are so checked out of the movie or whatever, but even something like that where you're like, okay, where I see a more talented filmmaker or better actors or something, like could maybe pull this off into something interesting. It just it feels so boring. And then
it's the execution, Tim, because it's just the direction, it's how the scene's handled, because we've seen this done better. We've absolutely seen movies where someone's hiding from a killer and they hurt themselves in some way and they have to be quiet. Like we've seen that done in good movies and it's effective. When it's done well. And here it just, like, between the way it's edited, the way it's directed, and yes, of course, by this point in the movie, we really know we don't like these characters, we don't care about them, so that's also a problem. But it just, I don't know. I think The Strangers also is kind of a weird thing to do sequels to or do reboots of, because I think the idea that there's only 2 victims, basically, and the whole movie's building up to getting them, I think works on an original movie where you don't really know where it's going and you can kind of enjoy the suspense of it. But I think when you go in knowing there's only going to be really these 2 characters and the whole movie's just building up to them dying, like, unless the suspense, like the direction and the tension of like the build up to that is so well done, it's actually kind of frustrating knowing that this is all it's going to be. Like, you kind of have that feeling in the back of your head where you're like, this is all this is until they die. And if it's not impressing you in other ways, and this definitely isn't, then you're just kind of sitting there waiting for the inevitable conclusion. Yeah,
it definitely isn't something that you would think would lend itself to a franchise. I mean, I understand why, obviously, they want to franchise it, but it feels like much better just left as a one and done.
Either that, at the very least, you do have to up the body count. You have to make it more of a traditional slasher movie for the sequels. Like, leave the original be kind of unique, and then just do slasher movies after that. If you want to keep the killers with the masks around, because I get it, the masks are all right. Like they're effective enough. The main killer's basically wearing the sack from Friday the 13th Part 2. Right? it worked then. It works now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like some of the stuff that I liked about the second one, where again, I don't think it was like a great movie or anything, but I feel like they were trying to up the ante a little bit, and I think there were like a few more kills and like a few more people running around and stuff, and so it makes it like cheesier and like less realistic and stuff, but I do think it's at least interesting. So I mean, it didn't 100% work there either, but I mean, I would take that sequel any day over this one for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, they're both tied up. The 3 killers stand in front of them, just like the end of the original. They stab him after he proposes. He slumps over, bleeds to death, and then she's like, "Why are you doing this to us?" And she's like, "Because you're here." Then they stab her, and they knock her chair over. And she doesn't act scared. She defiantly says "F you" and all that, which is fine. The thing with this though is that I kind of already saw that she was still in the second movie. I saw her name like in the stars of the second one. So I'm like, oh, I guess she survives. And the funny thing is that the camera sort of like goes into her face. The killers run off because they hear police sirens coming, so they just escape. And the camera just goes into her face, and it snaps cut to her lying in a hospital bed, and she wakes up kind of scared, and it's stormy outside. And I thought, oh, it's going to show something or whatever, but it just cuts to the to be continued. Like, I thought, oh, maybe you'll see the killer in the background or something, and I swear I looked a second time, and I still couldn't see anything. It just sort of ends on she's in the hospital, the story continues because she's not dead. Okay?
Now, I forgot to tell you this earlier, so I don't know if you just shut it off right away, but there was like a very quick like mid-credit scene.
I did not see. As soon as I hit the credits, I was done. I was like, turn off. What happened?
I mean, this might be more baffling, but basically it's her in the hospital bed, and then like she looks over and there's like another hospital bed next to her, and one of the killers is in the hospital bed, and it kind of like I forget which killer it was, but like, you know, they lift their head kind of, you know, in the weird killery way that they do, and then that's it.
Okay, so is the next one going to be like Halloween 2, where like the killers are chasing her around the hospital? Is that what we're doing next time?
That's what I would assume. Because again, like, you know, this whole time I'm thinking, okay, so what sets us apart from the original, and what makes us worthy, or you know, what's the hook that they're gonna do? You know, a whole trilogy of this. So I guess the idea that she survives in the end is what you can kind of, you know, pin, I guess, this trilogy on. And if this was a better movie, maybe that would be more exciting, because then it's like, okay, so maybe we have a survivor who's going to try to take the fight to them and try to track them down. Like, I see where there's potential in that, but because this movie is so bad, I have absolutely no, you know, like interest in seeing that played out or whatever. And then, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to have that little mid-credit scene, because it makes it feel like, oh, well, if the killer's right there, you know, they can just kill her very easily, very quickly. So
yeah, that feels like it implies that she's already dead. Like, you know, it happens off camera, but like the killer's there, she's done.
Yeah. So then, so does that, like, I don't know, is that even going to be a through line then in the next movie or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
very weird.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make it. If I click on the second movie again, IMDb, what's the description? This is just a description of the first one. It's just the same. It's just describing the first movie, so they've not actually put in a specific description for the second one. But I don't know if this is one we'll see in theaters when it comes out. This might be a wait until like January, and we'll do it when it's on VOD. I don't particularly want to spend money to go see this in a theater when we get the second one comes out. I don't know how you feel.
I feel like it would have to have amazing word of mouth. Like, if people are like, oh my god, I can't believe what they did with this one, like, you have to see it to believe it, then I'd be like, okay, I'm intrigued. But I mean, if it's the same as this one, where it's just like bad reviews or no one's talking about it, yeah, I have no interest.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm actually just going to go to Wikipedia for a second here and put in Strangers chapter. I genuinely like can't believe that running time, and it was making me wonder if they decide to like just put 2 and 3 together into one movie because they realize that no one would care by the time the third one comes out. But I'm not seeing anything like that, which is wild, because it means the second one's just 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is like absolutely insane if that is true.
I mean,
it's insane when a good movie's like, Terrifier 2 being 2 hours and 20 is insane, and I love that movie, but it's insane that a slasher movie's that long. The idea that a bad slasher movie is going to be 2 hours and 40 minutes is insane.
I mean, yeah, I can't go to theaters for that. That would be too much. If it is that runtime, that'll probably be like a watch it over 3 days situation.
I don't know. Anyway, I think we're ready to just rate this piece of shit. I think it's clear how we feel. There's not very little of interest to say about it. It's, you know, we got to an hour somehow, and I'm honestly a little surprised at even that. So Tim, what are you giving out of 10 the Strangers chapter 1?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I'm at this point where I honestly can't think of like one redeeming thing about this movie. Like, everything about it is dull. It's lifeless. It's basically just retreading like, you know, pretty much everything from, you know, a much better made movie. I say much better, but, you know, it's a movie that I'm not even like crazy to begin with, but, you know, it's leagues better than this. You know, the characters aren't interesting. There's like no atmosphere. You know, the music's not memorable, and there's not even like, you know, like a ton of cool kills or something that you could be like, all right, well, it was dumb, but this one kill was really cool or whatever. So I am struggling to find like anything to give this movie points for. So I think I'm just gonna have to give it a 1. Like, I mean, like what is there that's, you know, like what can I, like, I don't know, what can I give points for? You know what I mean?
The only reason why I don't know if I'll go as low as a 1 is just because like there's worse, you know, like there's like absolute travesties that are much more anger inducing, and this feels more like just such a bland shit movie that
I'd say that's like the one thing is, I guess it doesn't make me super, like, I'm a little angry that, you know, I had to waste my time and watch it or whatever, but it's not like something that's gonna linger. Like, to me, it's more forgettable than anger inducing. Like, I will, again, if there's no sequel, this would just be a movie that I would never ever think about again. So I mean, I guess that's one thing that I'm not like, I wasn't frothing at the mouth, like, oh, they ruined this franchise or they ruined this great premise or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe I'm in a saucy mood, but I just want to go low.
Ah, dear. I'm struggling here. I don't. We both rated Imaginary a 1 and a 1.5.
Yeah.
This is such a weird thing to say. Do I think this is better than Imaginary? I think it frustrates me less than Imaginary is maybe a better way of putting it. It's not that I like it anymore, really, but Imaginary, like, is doing things that annoy me way more in a lot of ways. So I think I'm going to give this a much higher score than Imaginary, and I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10.
So much higher.
Much higher, yes. So, yep. There you go. We had to get one big last dud from 2024 out of the way. That said, though, we still have to do the Hellboy movie, which unfortunately we have to do because of a stream that I did at Christmas where people wanted us to do it on the show. So, but other than that, that's the last 2024 movie I think we have to do. Okay. We've got the Hellboy movie to do, and then that's kind of it, and then it's the top 10. Now that's still going to be over a month away, mainly just because we have new releases coming out. We have some like films related to those new releases we have to do, and then next week we're doing a vote winner. We're doing a sequel to get away from new movies for a week. We're going to do Critters 3, something very different to anything we've been doing for the last couple of months. So something nice and light next week, and then we got new 28 Years Later, Megan 2, all that stuff coming, which we probably will be doing when it's in theaters, unless something comes up. But the plan is to go and do it when they're in theaters. So yeah, we'll see how all that goes. You can of course support the show over at Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can get bonus episodes over there. Little segments. For example, we did Final Destination Bloodlines last week. We did a little sort of bonus conversation, like ranking the opening disasters of those movies and doing like our favorite kills from the film. Not every movie will have a bonus segment like that, but if it's applicable, there'll be one. There won't be one for this movie because I tried to think of something we could talk about as a bonus conversation. Nothing remotely came to mind. There is no meat on the bone, so
I can't imagine having to do like, if we're doing like the MVP or favorite scene in the movie, it'd just be like, I don't know. Top 3 kills of The Strangers Chapter 1. Well, there was only 3 deaths. There was the guy in the opening scene, there was the boyfriend, and there was the repairman. And 2 of them happened off camera. Was he even killed by the killers? Was he even killed by the killers? Oh dear. Anyway, that's the show, everyone. Patreon or super thanks on YouTube or YouTube membership. Any way you want to support us is greatly appreciated. But just show up, watch, like, subscribe, listen to the podcast feed, whatever it may be, and we will see you for more with Critters 3 next time before we get to some other stuff. So
Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.